She humiliated me in front of 200 people as a prank. I disappeared without a trace. Years later, she asked, "How'd you make it?" I gave her 2 words. She dropped to her knees, crying, "No, it can't be." Those 2 words destroyed her completely. My name is James Rivers. I'm 42 years old, and I used to fly 747s for Continental Airways until a heart arrhythmia grounded me permanently 18 months ago. The FAA doesn't negotiate on cardiac issues. One irregular EKG during a routine physical and 20 years of perfect flight records meant nothing. They pulled my medical certificate, and just like that, I went from Captain Rivers to just James, sitting at home while my wife climbed the corporate ladder at Cascade Travel Group. The gala was at the Fairmont Olympic in downtown Seattle. Black tie, open bar, 200 employees celebrating another record year. Jessica had been hyping it for weeks, saying it was important for my mental health to get out, to network, to remember I still had value even if I wasn't flying anymore. She bought me a new suit, helped me with the bow tie, kissed my cheek in the hotel elevator. "Just relax tonight, babe," she'd said, squeezing my hand. "Everyone's been asking about you." I should have caught the edge in her smile. Dinner went fine. Standard rubber chicken, speeches about quarterly earnings, the usual corporate theater. I sat at Jessica's table with her team. Her boss, Trevor Holman, was there, loud and confident, the kind of guy who talks over everyone and thinks volume equals authority. Mid-40s, thick neck, wedding ring that never stopped him from leaning too close to the younger women at the office. Then came dessert, and the microphone. Jessica stood up, champagne glass in hand, and tapped it with a spoon. The ballroom quieted. She smiled that practiced PR smile, the one she uses for press releases and damage control. "I want to share something personal tonight," she began, her voice carrying across the room. "Because we talk so much about authenticity here at Cascade, and I think it's important to be real." My stomach dropped. I knew that tone. The false vulnerability. The setup. "My husband James is here tonight," she continued, gesturing toward me. A spotlight swung over. 200 faces turned. "And I just want everyone to know how brave he's been. It's not easy being a man who can't work anymore, who takes anxiety medication just to get through the day." The room went silent. Someone coughed. "But you know what's really hard?" Jessica's voice took on a playful edge. "Living with someone who cries every time we're intimate. Every single time." Laughter erupted. Not polite chuckles. Full-throated laughter. Trevor Holman slapped the table, his face red. The woman next to him covered her mouth, shoulders shaking. Even the waiters by the wall smirked. I sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, frozen. Jessica winked at me. Actually winked. "Babe, I'm just keeping it real," she said into the microphone, her tone dripping with mock sympathy. "That's what we do here, right? Authenticity." More laughter. Someone whistled. I set down my fork, stood up, buttoned my jacket. The room was still laughing when I walked out, my footsteps echoing on the marble floor. Nobody followed. I walked 5 blocks through downtown Seattle before my hand stopped shaking. The night air cut through my suit jacket, but I welcomed the cold. It kept me focused, kept me from turning around and doing something I'd regret. My phone buzzed. "Jessica." I ignored it. 3 more calls came in rapid succession. I powered it down. At a 24-hour diner near Pike Place Market, I ordered coffee I didn't drink and sat in a corner booth, staring at nothing. A waitress with tired eyes refilled my cup twice without saying a word. She'd probably seen worse than a man in a tuxedo having a breakdown at 11 p.m. on a Thursday. That's when clarity hit. Not rage. Not even hurt anymore. Just cold, mathematical certainty. Jessica had humiliated me in front of 200 people for entertainment. For what? Laughs. Career advancement. To prove she was the alpha in our marriage while I sat home jobless. I pulled out my wallet. Inside was a business card I'd kept for 3 months, ever since my former co-pilot Jake Thornton slipped it to me at a coffee meetup. Jake had left commercial aviation 2 years ago, moved to Singapore, started consulting for private aviation firms. The card was plain white with just a phone number and an email address. "If you ever want out," Jake had said, "and I mean really out, call this number. Guy owes me a favor. He helps people start over. Clean slate." I thought he was being dramatic. Now I understood. Back at our house in Ballard, I moved quickly. Jessica wouldn't be home for hours. She'd be celebrating, probably doing shots with Trevor and the PR team, riding the high of her performance. I packed one backpack, passport, bank statements, the external hard drive with all my flight logs and certifications, 3 changes of clothes, my grandfather's watch, and one photograph, the only one that mattered. Me and my son Dylan at his Little League championship 2 years ago, both of us grinning, his arm around my shoulders. Dylan, 13 years old, smart kid, loved baseball, hated math, wanted to be a marine biologist. He was at my brother's place in Tacoma for the weekend, some cousin bonding trip Jessica had arranged. I sat on the edge of our bed, holding that photo. This was the hardest part, leaving him. But I couldn't take him. Not yet. Not without proof of what I was starting to suspect. Because here's the thing nobody talks about when your marriage implodes. You start remembering details, little inconsistencies. Like how Dylan had my mother's eyes, but neither mine nor Jessica's jawline. How he needed glasses at age 7 when nobody in my family wore them, but Trevor Holman did. How Jessica had been working late with Trevor for months before Dylan was born, back when I was flying international routes and gone for days at a time. I'd pushed those thoughts away for years. Told myself I was paranoid. But tonight, watching her perform, watching Trevor laugh louder than anyone else I knew, I opened my laptop and found the email I composed 3 months ago, but never sent. It was addressed to a private DNA testing service. I'd even ordered the kit, hidden it in my car's glove box, waiting for the right moment. Now I had nothing but time. I attached a photo of Dylan from last month's school picture, added my credit card information, and hit send. Then I formatted my laptop, reset my phone to factory settings, and removed the SIM card. By 2 a.m., I was on a Greyhound bus headed east. No destination, no plan beyond disappearing. Jessica could have a house, the car, the life we built. I'd take the silence and whatever truth was waiting for me at the end of this road. My last thought before I closed my eyes was simple. Some men fight back with fists, others with lawyers. I'd fight back by becoming someone she could never find, never control, never humiliate again. The silence would be my weapon. 3 weeks into my disappearance, I was living in an extended stay motel outside Boise, Idaho. The kind of place that rents by the week, no questions asked, where the ice machine sounds like it's dying and the previous tenant's cigarette smoke still clings to the curtains. I've been working under the table at a small regional airport, fueling private planes and doing maintenance checks. The owner, a retired Air Force mechanic named Earl, didn't care about my background. He paid cash, asked no questions, and let me keep my head down. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. Plain Manila, no return address, forwarded through Jake's Singapore contact. My hands were steady when I opened it. I'd spent 3 weeks preparing for this moment, running through every possible outcome. DNA paternity test results, probability of paternity, 0%. I read it twice, then a third time. The numbers didn't change. Dylan wasn't mine. 13 years of Little League games, homework help, teaching him to ride a bike, reading him bedtime stories until he said he was too old. None of it made him my biological son. But here's the thing about being a father. Biology is just science. Love is choice. And I'd chosen Dylan every single day of his life. I sat on the edge of that motel bed, staring at the report, and something hardened inside me. Not anger at Dylan, never at him, but at Jessica and whoever had fathered him while I was flying red ice across the Pacific, trusting my wife, believing in the family we'd built. Trevor Holman. It had to be. The timeline matched. The physical resemblance I'd been ignoring for years. The way he'd laughed loudest at the gala, when Jessica humiliated me. I pulled out my laptop and opened an encrypted email account Jake's contact had set up for me. Attached the DNA results. Wrote one sentence. I need everything you can find on Trevor Holman. Financial records, phone logs, travel history from 13 to 14 years ago. Whatever it takes. The response came in 6 hours. Consider it done. This kind of work isn't cheap. I checked my bank balance. I'd liquidated my retirement account before disappearing, taking the tax penalty. $47,000. It was supposed to be my safety net. Now it was ammunition. Bill me, I typed back. I'll pay whatever it costs. 2 days later, a second package arrived. This one was thick. Bank statements showing regular payments from Trevor to Jessica's personal account, starting 9 months before Dylan was born and continuing for 3 years. Hotel receipts from a conference in San Diego. Both of them checked into the same resort, same weekend, 14 years ago. Text messages recovered from an old phone backup. Trevor to Jessica. He'll never know. You're too smart for that. I spread the documents across the motel bed like evidence at a crime scene. This wasn't just infidelity. This was conspiracy. Fraud. 13 years of lies. And I'd been funding it with every paycheck while Trevor played daddy in secret and Jessica played devoted wife. The old James would have called a lawyer. Filed for divorce. Fought for custody in court, where Jessica's PR skills and family money would have buried me. But I wasn't that man anymore. I picked up the burner phone and called Jake's contact, a man I knew only as Mr. Park. I need to disappear completely, I said. New identity, new city, something nobody can trace back to James Rivers. That's expensive. His voice was flat, professional, and permanent. I have the money, and I'm already gone. I just need to make sure I stay that way until I'm ready to come back on my terms. What are your terms? He asked. I looked at the DNA report, the bank statements, the text messages, rebuilding everything they took from me, but bigger, untouchable. So when I'm ready to remind them I exist, they'll have no choice but to listen. There was a pause. Then, I know someone who can help with that. He specializes in second chances for people who deserve them. Name's Richard Davenport. My blood went cold. Jessica's father, former venture capitalist. Retired 2 years ago. Word is he's been quietly funding projects outside his daughter's knowledge. Might be interested in your story. Why would he help me? I asked. Because from what I hear, Richard Davenport values integrity over blood. And his daughter just made a very public spectacle of destroying a good man's reputation. That kind of thing bothers him. I closed my eyes. This was a gamble. But I'd already lost everything that mattered. What was left to risk except my pride? Set up a meeting, I said. Somewhere neutral. I'll hear him out. One more thing, Mr. Park added. If you're going to rebuild, you'll need a name for it. Something that means something to you. I looked at the DNA report again. At the two-word conclusion that had shattered my world. Paternity excluded. 2 words, I said quietly. That's what I'll call it. Whatever I build. 2 words. The meeting was set for a coffee shop in Spokane, Washington. Neutral territory. Public enough to feel safe. Quiet enough for honest conversation. Richard Davenport chose the location. I chose to arrive an hour early and watch the entrance. He walked in at exactly 3 p.m. 67 years old, gray hair combed back, wearing a wool coat and carrying a leather briefcase that had seen better days. He ordered black coffee and sat at a corner table, facing the door. Professional. Careful. I recognized the posture. It was the same way I used to scan airport terminals for potential problems. I gave him 5 minutes, then approached. Mr. Davenport, I said, extending my hand. James Rivers. He stood, shook my hand firmly. His grip was strong. His eyes were tired but sharp. Sit down, James. We have a lot to discuss. For the first 10 minutes, neither of us spoke about Jessica or the gala. He asked about my background, my flying career, what I've been doing since my medical certificate was pulled. I answered honestly. No point in lying to a man who'd probably already run a background check. Then he slid a folder across the table. I saw the video, Richard said quietly. Someone from Cascade posted it to the company's internal network. My daughter humiliating you for entertainment. In front of 200 people. I didn't touch the folder. Why are you here? Because I raised her better than that, he said, his voice hard. And because I've spent the last 3 weeks investigating what really happened. I know about Trevor Holman. I know about Dylan. My jaw tightened. Ow, I'm a venture capitalist, James. Due diligence is what I do. When my daughter does something out of character, I look deeper. He opened the folder himself. Inside were copies of the same documents I'd received, plus more. Medical records from Jessica's OBGYN showing Dylan was born 2 weeks premature, which meant conception happened during that San Diego conference. Financial transfers I hadn't seen. A private investigator's report confirming Trevor and Jessica had maintained an affair for years. She's been lying to you since before Dylan was born, Richard said. And to me, using family money, I gave her 4 business investments to pay off Trevor's gambling debts. I don't fund liars, James. Even when they're my own blood. I leaned back, processing. What do you want from me? Nothing, he said. I want to give you something. A chance to rebuild. I'm 77 years old. I've got more money than I'll ever spend and a daughter who values social media followers over integrity. I'd rather invest in someone who knows what real character looks like. I'm not a charity case, I said. I'm not offering charity. I'm offering partnership. Richard pulled out a second folder. I've been watching the private aviation consulting market for 2 years. Small firms, high-end clients, discretion guaranteed. It's a growing sector. You have 20 years of commercial flight experience and contacts across the industry. I have capital and business connections. We build something together. Something clean. Something she can't touch. I looked at the business plan he'd already drafted. Revenue projections. Market analysis. Startup costs. He'd done his homework. Why? I asked. Why betray your own daughter for a stranger? Richard's expression hardened. Because she stopped being my daughter the moment she chose cruelty over character. And you're not a stranger. You're the man who raised my grandson with more integrity than his biological father ever showed. That means something to me. I felt something shift in my chest. Not hope exactly, but possibility. What do you want to call it? Richard asked. I thought about the DNA report. The 2 words that had destroyed my old life and would build my new one. 2 words, I said. 2 words: aviation consulting. Richard smiled. It was the first genuine smile I'd seen from anyone in a month. Simple. Direct. I like it. He extended his hand again. This time, when I shook it, I wasn't James Rivers, the humiliated husband. I was James Rivers, the founder. The builder. The man who would turn silence into power. One condition, I said. Jessica doesn't know about this. Not yet. Not until we're so big she can't ignore us. Richard's smile widened. Son, I wouldn't have it any other way. 18 months after I disappeared, 2 words aviation consulting had become a ghost in the industry. We weren't on LinkedIn. Didn't advertise. Didn't chase clients. They came to us through whispers and referrals. High net worth individuals who needed private flight operations analyzed. Corporate executives looking for discreet aviation consulting. Celebrities wanting aircraft acquisitions handled quietly. Richard and I had built something remarkable. Revenue was approaching $8 million annually. We employed 12 people, all working remotely, all bound by ironclad NDAs. Nobody knew who owned the company. That was by design. I was living in Portland, Oregon now, under my real name, but with a carefully constructed background story. Former commercial pilot turned consultant. No mention of Seattle. No mention of Jessica. My past was a clean slate I'd written myself. Then the email arrived. The subject line stopped my heart. Dad, please read this. It's Dylan. My hand shook as I opened it. The account was new, created that day. Smart kid. He knew I'd have alerts set up for our old family email addresses. Dad, I don't know if you'll get this. I don't even know if you're alive. Mom says you abandoned us. That you had a breakdown and just left. But I don't believe her anymore. I'm 14 now. Freshman year. I made varsity baseball, even though I'm young for my grade. You would have been proud. Coach says I've got your discipline. But that's not why I'm writing. I found something in Mom's office last month. Financial statements. Payments from someone named Trevor Holman going back to before I was born. And I found emails. Old ones she thought she deleted. About me. About you. About lies. I did a DNA test. One of those mail order kits. Used my birthday money. I compared it to a sample from your old hairbrush I kept in my room. I know you're not my biological father, but you're still my dad. You're the one who taught me to throw a curveball. Who sat through every game, even when I struck out 4 times. Who read me The Hobbit twice, because I loved it so much. I need to find you. Not because of Mom or Trevor or any of this mess. Because I need to know you're okay. And because I need you to know that whatever the DNA says, you're my father. The only one who matters. Please respond. Even if you're angry. Even if you hate me for being part of this lie. Just let me know you're alive. Dylan. I read it 5 times. Each time, the words hit harder. He knew. This 14-year-old kid had done his own investigation and reached the same conclusion I had. But instead of being angry, he was reaching out. Choosing me despite the biology. I wanted to respond immediately. Type out everything. Tell him I'd never stopped thinking about him. That I'd left to protect him from the ugly divorce that would have destroyed him. That I was building something, so when he was old enough, I could give him a future Jessica couldn't touch. But I couldn't. Not yet. Because responding meant exposing my location. And Jessica would find out. She'd use Dylan to track me down, drag me back into court, weaponize him against me. Instead, I did something harder. I waited. I forwarded the email to Richard. He called me 10 minutes later. What do you want to do? Richard asked, his voice gentle. He knew what Dylan meant to me. I want to bring him into this, I said. But carefully. Legally. So Jessica can't stop it. He's 14. In Washington State. At 14, he can petition the court for custody preference. And with the evidence we have against Jessica, fraud, adultery, financial manipulation, we could make a case. She'll fight, I said. Let her. We've got 2 years of documented success. You're stable. Employed. You've been paying child support into an escrow account, even though she doesn't know it. We can prove you didn't abandon him. You protected him. I thought about Dylan sitting at his computer, waiting for a response that might never come, wondering if his dad was dead or just gone. Set up a secure email account, I said. Encrypted. Untraceable. I'll respond. But I need to do this right. No mistakes. 3 hours later, I sent my reply from an anonymous, encrypted service. Dylan, I'm alive. I'm safe. And I never stopped being your father. What you found, the DNA test, the emails, that took courage. Real courage. The kind most grown men don't have. I'm proud of you. Not for baseball, though that's incredible. For having the strength to seek truth, even when it's hard. I left because staying would have destroyed you. Your mother made choices I couldn't live with. And if I'd stayed, the legal battle would have torn you apart. So I left to build something better. Something clean. Somewhere you could come when you were ready. I can't tell you where I am yet. Not because I don't trust you. Because your mother will ask, and you're too good of a person to lie to her face. But soon, when you're 15, we can file for custody change. You can choose where you want to live. And I'll be waiting. Until then, keep playing baseball. Keep being the incredible young man you've become. And know that every day, I'm working to build a future where we can be a family again. I love you, son. Biology doesn't change that. Nothing ever will. Dad. I hit send and sat back. The first move was made. Now I just had to wait for Dylan to be old enough to choose for himself. And when that day came, Jessica would learn what it meant to lose something irreplaceable. Jessica's world started collapsing 6 months after Dylan's email. I didn't cause it. I just stopped preventing it. Richard had connections at Cascade Travel Group. One call to a former board member, and suddenly Jessica's expense reports were being audited. Closely. The kind of audit that finds 3 years of inflated travel claims, personal purchases billed to corporate cards, and unexplained payments to a certain Trevor Holman listed as consulting fees. The call came on a Wednesday. Jessica, to HR, please bring documentation. I heard about it through Richard's sources. She tried to explain, said Trevor was a legitimate business consultant, that the charges were approved. But when HR pulled Trevor's supposed consulting contracts, they found nothing. No work product, no deliverables, just payments totaling $87,000 over 3 years. Cascade fired her on Thursday, effective immediately, escorted out by security. Her corporate email shut down before she reached the parking lot. I didn't celebrate. This wasn't victory. It was just gravity finally catching up. But Trevor wasn't done. 2 weeks after Jessica's termination, he made his move, filed a lawsuit against her for defamation, claiming she told his wife about their affair and ruined his marriage. Which was interesting, because I knew for a fact Trevor's wife had hired her own investigator 6 months ago and already knew everything. Trevor was just cutting ties, protecting himself, throwing Jessica under the bus before she could drag him down. Jessica tried to fight back, posted on social media about corporate betrayal and being targeted for speaking truth. But the comments weren't sympathetic. People remember the gala video. Someone reposted it with a caption, "She humiliated her husband for laughs. Now she's crying about fairness." The court of public opinion is harsh, especially when you've burned your credibility for viral moments. Then came the email I've been waiting for. From Dylan's new encrypted account. "Dad, Mom lost her job. She's been crying a lot. Won't tell me why. But I heard her on the phone with Trevor. He's being sued by his wife for the affair. For child support. For me." His wife's lawyer sent Mom a letter. It says Trevor has to pay retroactive child support because DNA proves he's my biological father. 14 years of payments, plus future support until I'm 18. Mom's broke, Dad. The house is going into foreclosure. She's talking about moving in with Grandma. But Grandpa Richard won't answer her calls. I know you probably think she deserves this. Maybe she does. But I'm stuck in the middle, and I don't want to live with her anymore. I can't watch her fall apart and blame Everyone except herself. I'll be 15 in 2 months. Can we file the custody petition then? I want to come live with you. Wherever you are. Whatever you're doing. I just want to be with my real dad. Please. I showed the email to Richard. He nodded slowly. It's time, he said. We file on his 15th birthday. Cite Jessica's fraud, her termination, her financial instability. Dylan's old enough to testify about wanting to live with you. Washington courts listen to kids his age. She'll fight, I said. With what? She's unemployed, living off credit cards. Trevor's wife is suing her for alienation of affection. Jessica's got no leverage left. I thought about the woman who'd stood at that microphone 18 months ago, laughing while 200 people mocked me. Thought about the years of lies, the betrayal, the calculated cruelty, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no revenge, just the quiet certainty that justice sometimes doesn't need your help. It just needs time. Draft the petition, I said. We'll file the day he turns 15, and then we bring him home. Richard smiled. 2 words, James. That's all it took. 2 words to change everything. I looked at him. What 2 words? Your father, he said quietly. When she asked how you made it, that's what you'll tell her someday. Your father chose me over you. And that's when her world ended. Dylan moved in with me 3 weeks after the custody ruling. We found a house in Bend, Oregon, with a view of the Cascade Mountains and enough space for him to practice baseball in the backyard. He adjusted faster than I expected. Good grades. Made the varsity team as a sophomore. Started calling Richard Grandpa without anyone asking him to. Life was rebuilding. Clean. Honest. Everything I'd fought for. Then I discovered what Jessica had done with my grandfather's watch. I found out through an estate sale website. Richard's assistant had been monitoring online auctions, tracking Jessica's asset liquidations. She'd been selling everything. Furniture, jewelry, anything with value. The listing stopped me cold. Vintage 1952 Omega Seamaster, family heirloom, excellent condition, starting bid $200. My grandfather's watch. The one he'd worn flying B-17s over Germany. The one he'd given me the day I got my commercial pilot's license. The one I'd left in our bedroom safe when I disappeared, along with our marriage certificate and other documents I couldn't carry. Jessica had sold it for $200. The auction ended 2 years ago. The buyer was listed as a private collector in California. I sat at my desk, staring at the screen. That watch was worth $45,000 to the right collector. But its value to me was incalculable. It was the last physical connection to my grandfather, the man who taught me that integrity matters more than altitude. We can find it, Richard said when I showed him. I've got people who track these things. If it's still in circulation, we'll locate it. It took 3 weeks. The collector had died. His estate was being liquidated. The watch was in an auction house in San Francisco, scheduled for sale in 2 days. I flew down personally. Walked into the auction house wearing a suit Richard had insisted I buy. Sat in the back row while they auctioned Civil War memorabilia and vintage furniture. Then lot 247, 1952 Omega Seamaster, military provenance, professional restoration. Bidding opened at $5,000. I raised my paddle. Someone countered. $7,500. I wanted $10,000. The room noticed. This wasn't casual bidding anymore. $15,000 from a phone bidder. $20,000 from me. The auctioneer's voice climbed. $25,000. $30,000. $35,000. At $40,000, the room went quiet. The phone bidder dropped out. Sold, the auctioneer declared, to Paddle 67 for $40,000. I paid in cash. Took the watch from the clerk with hands that didn't shake. Strapped it on my wrist where it belonged. That night, I sent Jessica an email from an anonymous account. No words. Just a photo. My wrist. My grandfather's watch. Back where it belonged. She never replied. But I knew she'd seen it. Knew she understood what it meant. I'd recovered what she'd stolen. And I was just getting started. 3 months later, 2 Words Aviation Consulting went public. Not the company itself, but our success. Richard gave an interview to Aviation Weekly. Didn't mention my name, but detailed our client list. Fortune 500 companies, A-list celebrities, Middle Eastern royalty. The article mentioned our founder was a former commercial pilot who'd rebuilt his career after medical disqualification, proving that setbacks are simply setups for comebacks. Jessica would read it. She'd wonder. And somewhere in her mind, she'd start to connect dots she didn't want to believe. But I wasn't ready for the confrontation yet. That would come. When Dylan was older. When 2 words was too big to ignore. When I could look her in the eye and show her exactly what her cruelty had built. For now, I had my son, my business, my grandfather's watch, and patience. The Aviation Leadership Summit in Seattle was invitation only. 200 industry executives, manufacturers, and consultants. Richard had secured us a speaking slot. I'd resisted at first, but he'd been insistent. "You've been invisible long enough," Richard said. "It's time people see what you built." And who built it? I agreed. Not for validation, but because Dylan deserved to see his father stand in front of an industry and be respected for something real. Dylan came with me. 16 now, taller than me, with Jessica's dark hair but my grandfather's steady gaze. He sat front row while I spoke about crisis management and private aviation. The applause was genuine. 3 people asked for business cards afterward. 1 offered a consulting contract on the spot. Then I saw her, Jessica, standing near the conference room exit, wearing a blazer that had seen better days. Her hair was different, shorter, less polished. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. Our eyes met. I saw recognition, then shock, then something that might have been fear. I excused myself from the conversation and walked toward her. Slowly. Let her see me coming. She didn't run, just stood there, frozen. "James," she said when I reached her. Her voice was quieter than I remembered. "I didn't know you'd be here. Why are you here?" I asked, my tone even. "I'm working registration. Part-time event staff. I needed the work." She looked away. I heard about 2 words. "Didn't realize it was you until I saw you speak." "Now you know," I said. She looked at Dylan, sitting in the front row on his phone. "He looks good. Happy." "He is. I wanted to reach out," Jessica said, "after the custody hearing, to apologize. But my lawyer said not to contact you. Your lawyer was smart." She flinched. "I deserve that. I deserve all of it. What I did at the gala, it was cruel. I was trying to impress Trevor, trying to prove I was bold enough for the promotion. I didn't think about what it would do to you." "You didn't think about a lot of things," I said. "How did you do it?" she asked, her voice breaking slightly. "Lose everything and build this. How'd you make it?" I looked at her, really looked at her. Saw the woman who'd destroyed my reputation for applause, who'd lied about Dylan's father for 13 years, who'd sold my grandfather's watch for $200. And I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just cold certainty. I leaned in slightly, keeping my voice low enough that only she could hear. "Your father," I said. 2 words. That's all it took. Her face went white. "What?" "Your father," I repeated. "Richard Davenport. He's my partner. He funded 2 words. He chose me over you. That's how I made it." Jessica's knees buckled, literally buckled. She grabbed the wall for support, her breathing shallow. "No," she whispered. "That can't be. He wouldn't." "He did. 2 years ago. Gave me capital, connections, everything I needed. Because he values integrity over blood. And you prove you had neither." Her eyes filled with tears. "You're lying." I pulled out my phone, showed her the corporate registration documents. 2 words Aviation Consulting, LLC. Founders, James Rivers and Richard Davenport. "He's been investing in me while you've been drowning," I said quietly. "Every deal you lost, every job you couldn't get. He made sure of it. Not to destroy you, just to ensure I could rebuild without interference." Jessica slid down the wall, landing on the carpet, her hands covering her face. People were starting to notice. A staff member approached, concerned. "She'll be fine," I told the staff member, just overwhelmed. I looked down at Jessica one last time. "You humiliated me for a promotion you never got. Lied about my son for 13 years. Sold my family's legacy for pocket change. And now you're working registration while I'm keynoting conferences. That's not revenge, Jessica. That's just gravity." I walked back to Dylan. He looked up from his phone. "Was that Mom?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "You okay?" I put my hand on his shoulder, felt the weight of my grandfather's watch on my wrist, thought about Richard waiting back at the hotel. "I'm perfect," I said, and I meant it. 6 months after the Seattle conference, Jessica made one last attempt to reach out. Not to me, to Dylan. He showed me the letter. It arrived at our house in Bend, handwritten on cheap stationery. "Dylan, I know I have no right to ask for anything, I know what I did was unforgivable. But you're my son, and I need you to know I never stopped loving you, even when I made terrible choices. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking you to understand that I was drowning. Your father left, and I panicked. I made mistakes. I hurt people. I hurt you most of all. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I'll always be here. Mom. Dylan read it twice, then set it down on the kitchen table. What do you think? I asked. He was quiet for a long moment. 17 now. Taller than me. Captain of the varsity baseball team. Full scholarship offers from 3 colleges. I think she's trying to rewrite history, Dylan said finally. You didn't leave because you wanted to. You left because she destroyed you. And now she wants sympathy because she's facing consequences. She's still your mother, I said carefully. Biologically, at least through her, you exist. No, Dylan said firmly. She's the woman who lied to both of us for my entire childhood. Who humiliated you publicly. Who sold Grandpa's watch for beer money. He looked at me. You're my father. The one who came back for me. Who built something real. Who taught me that character matters more than DNA. I felt something tighten in my chest. Pride. Grief. Relief. What do you want to do? I asked. Nothing, Dylan said. I don't want to respond. I don't want to engage. She made her choices. Now she lives with them. I nodded. That's fair. But I do want to know one thing, Dylan continued. Trevor. Does he know about me? That I'm his biological son? I'd been dreading this question for months. Yes, I said. His ex-wife's attorney contacted him during the divorce. DNA evidence was part of the custody case for his other kids. He knows. Has he tried to contact me? No. Dylan absorbed that. Good. I don't want to meet him. Ever. He's just some guy who slept with Mom and paid her off. You're the one who showed up. That's the only thing that matters. 2 weeks later, Richard called with news about Trevor Holman. He filed for bankruptcy, Richard said. Personal and business. His wife cleaned him out in the divorce. Child support for 3 kids, plus Dylan, nearly bankrupted him. Then his consulting business collapsed when word got out about the affair and the embezzlement he'd been hiding. Where is he now? I asked. Working at a car dealership in Tacoma. Selling used Hondas. Makes about $40,000 a year. Lives in a studio apartment. Divorced. Alone. Exactly what he deserves. I thought about the man who'd laughed loudest when Jessica humiliated me. Who'd fathered Dylan and then disappeared behind monthly payments. Who'd betrayed his own family for an affair. Good, I said. Let him stay there. Richard paused. There's something else. Jessica's been trying to contact me. Emails. Phone calls. She wants a meet. Says she needs to explain. What did you tell her? Nothing. I blocked her number. Changed my email. She doesn't get to explain. She doesn't get closure. She gets silence. I smiled. Richard understood. Silence wasn't cruelty. It was consequence. 2 words is expanding. Richard continued. We've been approached by a European consortium. They want us to consult on a private fleet operation in Dubai. 12 aircraft. 3-year contract. $20 million. We taking it. Already signed. We'll need to hire 5 more consultants. I was thinking Dylan might want a summer internship. Get some real business experience before college. I looked at Dylan in the living room, studying calculus. My son, not by blood, by choice. I'll ask him, I said, but I think he'll say yes. That night, I opened the safe in my office. Inside was the folder I'd kept since the beginning. DNA test results, bank statements, text messages, Jessica's entire fraud documented and preserved. I kept it for years, thinking I'd need it someday. For court, for evidence, for revenge. But I didn't need it anymore. Dylan had chosen me. 2 words was thriving. Jessica and Trevor had destroyed themselves without my help. I fed the documents into the shredder, watched them turn to confetti. Some victories don't require proof. They just require patience. 3 years after that Seattle conference, I stood in the main terminal of Portland International Airport watching Dylan board a flight to Boston. Full scholarship to MIT. Aerospace engineering. Following in his grandfather's footsteps, just with different wings. He hugged me at the security checkpoint. Thanks, Dad. For everything. You earned this, I said. All of it. No, Dylan said. You earned it. You rebuilt everything after she destroyed it. You show me what real strength looks like. I watched him disappear through security, then walked back to the parking garage. My phone buzzed. Text from Richard. Dylan off to school? Just watch him go through security, I replied. Good kid. You raised him right. We raised him right, I corrected. 2 words. Aviation consulting had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. Offices in Portland, Dubai, and London. 47 employees. Annual revenue approaching 50 million. We consulted for governments, corporations, and private clients who valued discretion above all else. Richard had retired from active management last year, but he still attended board meetings, still offered advice, still reminded me that character beats credentials every time. I drove to the office. Our Portland headquarters occupied the top floor of a building downtown with views of Mount Hood. Clean lines. Professional. Nothing flashy. That wasn't our style. My assistant handed me a package when I arrived. This came by courier this morning. Marked personal. Inside was a letter. Handwritten. From Jessica. James. I know you won't respond. I know I don't deserve a response. But I need you to know that I understand what I destroyed. I see 2 words everywhere now. Aviation magazines. Industry conferences. Dylan mentions it when we have our monthly calls. Yes, he calls me once a month. Because he's a better person than I ever was. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just asking you to know that I'm sorry. For the gala. For the lies. For selling your grandfather's watch. For everything. I'm working as a travel agent now. Small agency in Bellingham. It's honest work. Quiet. I'm not trying to be impressive anymore. Just trying to be decent. I hope you're happy. I hope Dylan's happy. You both deserve it. Jessica. I read it once. Then filed it away without responding. She wanted closure. Wanted me to say it was okay. That I'd moved past it. But I hadn't moved past it. I'd moved through it. Built something bigger than the hurt. And that was better than forgiveness. My grandfather's watch ticked steadily on my wrist. Dylan was at MIT. Richard was healthy and proud. 2 words was thriving. I opened my laptop and pulled up the company's mission statement, the one Richard and I had written 3 years ago. 2 words, aviation consulting. Building trust through silence. Delivering results through integrity. 2 words had started everything. 2 words had ended everything. 2 words had rebuilt everything. Your father. That's what I'd told Jessica in Seattle. That's what had broken her completely. Not because it was cruel, but because it was true. Richard had chosen me over his own daughter. Had invested millions in a broken pilot with nothing left to lose. Had believed in character when everyone else saw failure. And together, we'd built something no amount of lies could tear down. I looked out the window. Portland stretched below. Mountains in the distance. Sky clear and blue. My phone buzzed. Text from Dylan. Made it to Boston. Campus is incredible. Thanks again, Dad. Love you. Love you too, son. I typed back. Make Grandpa proud. Already am, he replied. 2 words. We survived. I smiled. Set down the phone. Looked at my calendar. 3 meetings today. Conference call with Dubai. Dinner with Richard. Good life. Honest work. Clean conscience. Jessica had tried to destroy me with laughter and public humiliation. Had bet that I'd break under the weight of shame and betrayal. She lost that bet. Because some men fight back with fists. Some with lawyers. Some with social media campaigns. I fought back with silence. With patience. With building something so solid that when I finally spoke, the only words I needed were 2. Your father. And that was enough.